Hello, I'm John from Broadsheet, and you're very welcome to Tomorrow Tonight. We're joined by Green Party veteran, Dan Boyle, who's a Cork City councillor. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, John. How are you?
And Dan is a Broadsheet columnist, and he has an excellent column today, which I was just mentioning is perhaps a little bit subtle for a Thursday, but well worth a read if you're a Green Party member.
Progressive in any way, I guess.
Yeah, a younger member, I don't know, sort of more radical, perhaps. Anyway, it's great to see you, Dan. Did you get a knock?
I'm kind of almost embarrassed to say about this. I actually fell off a bike 6 months ago. It's an electric bike I got, and there was a screw missing, and the handlebars came off when I was cycling. But this is an infection caused by the scars that I got then. So when I wear a mask, it just reopens all the scars I opened. So
no.
It'll eventually clear. So.
Wow. So, yeah, of course, the mask then would
exactly.
Well, I'm really sorry. The electric bike, the handle just fell off, did it? So.
No, there was a screw missing in the shaft, and the handlebars literally came off of my hand. I fell in the middle of the road. I was very lucky. I didn't break anything. It could have been my eyes, could have lost teeth, jawbone. I suppose I was going about 15 kilometers an hour or something like that.
God. And in Cork City?
Well, yeah, just at the edge. Yeah, I was around the harbour actually, but I was lucky that the nearest car to me was about 100 meters away. Any closer, I would have been part of its path as well. But wow. 6 months ago, so it's
God, it's a long.
I bear the scars literally. So.
Yeah, literally, yeah, and a suitable mode of transport for a Green Party councillor.
Yeah. Well, the bike was barely touched. I've used it quite a lot since. I try to use it at zero as much as I can, but I have to admit, you still have to pedal. But it's great for getting up hills. So.
Yeah. What's the huge hill? Is it St. Patrick's Hill?
Patrick's Hill is a 1 in 8 gradient. Yeah, it's practically like you're walking perpendicularly.
Yeah. Is that the steepest?
Well, I think they used to do the Ross Talton there with Sean Kelly and Stephen Roach, when they were popular, and they were saying that it was equivalent to some of the steepest in the Tour de France. Not as long, obviously, but I find it hard to walk up it now, and never mind cycle it. So.
I was wondering, were you watching Primetime this evening?
I didn't have a chance. I must admit, I was immersed in other things. It was an interview with Micheál Martin, I believe, was it?
Yeah, I just wanted to play a small clip from it that's up on,
sure.
That's up on Twitter tonight, and it's from McNulty.
Subjected to this 14-day quarantine at home, you should self-isolate. In other words, you should stay in your.
You can hear that, can you?
Yeah.
On your family. Now that's advice he's giving tonight. That's what he's saying is the case. He said that a couple of days ago. The Taoiseach disputed that. He said, in fact, you could mix with your family or mix with your housemates. Subsequently, the Minister for Health then said, yes, that's the case. You can mix with your housemates. Then several cabinet ministers came out and backed up that view. And then tonight, we're back again to self-isolation. Why the confusion, and what is the situation?
Well, the bottom line is this: in terms of quarantining people, that's a very serious issue in terms of the restrictions on personal liberty. And from a legal perspective, mandatory home quarantine means home quarantine. You can't legally enforce quarantining in a bedroom, for example. That wouldn't be practical.
But that's the advice.
No, sorry, in terms of legal. In terms of any regulations we pass have to be legally.
That's confusing.
No, it's not.
No, you
confusing at all. You put your case. Sorry, there's two. Okay. No, so there's a fundamental distinction between public health advice and the legal reality in terms of a penal provision for someone who breaks the law. That's a fundamental difference, and the public health advice will always be there. But in many respects, throughout the pandemic, we had public health advice, which people adhered to. And we didn't rely on the law in many aspects of our response to the pandemic. But yes, you will need penal provisions. And in respect of travel, the cumulative impact of all of the provisions we've brought in are designed to reduce travel, and particularly Irish people going abroad for holidays.
I'll stop it there.
Yeah.
Just thought it was very interesting. I thought he was quite well there.
Yeah, it's still very up in the air as regards the difference between quarantining and isolating, and whether people have had a positive or negative test when coming back to the country, and whether too many people are coming in and out of the country, and the status of the people who are coming in and out of the country. I mean, travel has been reduced by 90%, and of those who are traveling, the vast majority of them are Irish people, most of them returning home. So it has been advised, and whether it's the right advice or not, that the best place for them to isolate in terms of a type of quarantine, is at home. Now, the demand is in relation to having a zero COVID strategy, is that you should have what they have in Australia and New Zealand and some other countries, hotels near the airports, and have people insist on people staying there for a set time period and having them in their rooms. I must admit, it's something that I don't come on one side or the other, because I think we should reduce the risk wherever possible. But it's the overall policy, whether the numbers are coming down, and they seem to be, and whether we're vaccinating enough people, and we don't seem to be, because we have supply problems. And I'm always slow to analyze issues by concentrating them on, or being fixated on, a particular point.
Yeah.
With a lot of the debate seems to be at the moment whether we should have this quarantine, when it's a complicated series of issues we have to address.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what that demonstrated, though, with the reporter, the interviewer, is they're demanding things like, how are you going to insist that people stay in their bedroom? It's, again, I think Michael McNamara in the Boyle today was saying that the media narrative, they seem to be sort of almost driving this narrative. I mean, right there, of course, there can't be police people in their bedrooms. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure whether I'd share Michael McNamara's analysis, but there's a huge amount of inconsistencies about people who are making demands as to what the policy should be at any given time. If you look at I've heard radio commentators, let's say, who've had a particular view 6 months ago that would be the opposite of what they're saying now, that type of thing. So people are expecting consistency in a situation where there has to be flexibility, and that the actual disease we're dealing with itself is open to mutation, and policy itself has to change all the time. I would prefer to think that the best is being done in the worst of circumstances, and where mistakes are being made, you should try to correct them. And that's the type of tone we should be addressing the issue on.
But are we really at a stage where the national broadcaster asking the Taoiseach, why can't you enforce penalties for people who don't stay in their bedroom? Literally, I mean, that's...
Yeah, what they're trying to do is they're trying to play to a mood. I mean, I didn't hear it, but apparently Liveline had a call from someone who was in Tenerife, and kind of trying to rub everyone else's noses in it. That's the other extreme. It's like, and that person is obviously isolated, and well, it's an isolated situation, and it's not representative of a situation that many people find themselves in. But it comes to represent something that people are regretting that they don't have, and that stokes up the public concern.
Yeah, our divides and...
Exactly. Divide and conquer.
Yeah. It's a funny old time.
Indeed.
Can we go into your local paper?
Yeah, the Examiner. Its lead story is a very interesting one in relation to a woman who was violently sexually harassed by a man over a considerable time period, and the trial is now finished, and a conviction has been won, and a sentence of 5 years has been given. But it's not only a significant story in its own right. It should inform a wider debate about a lot of things, about the nature of sexual harassment and sexual violence towards women, which is still very much something that we don't deal with properly in this country. And then as a subset of that, the way that the legal system deals with the threats to women, I'd be of the opinion that even though there's a conviction and 5 years is significant in its own right, we see other cases where people are given smaller sentences or not given sentences at all, and there's a need for training of the judiciary as to how to deal with sex offences in particular. There was a story the other day, for instance, where someone was engaged in public groping, and I think they were asked to put €100 into the poor box, and that's the way the issue was dealt with, which compounds the violence of the insult to the women concerned.
Yeah, it's amazing. 100 euros, eh? Body of woman 75 found in burning car. This is a story in Cork.
That's intriguing, and there's a sub-story with this as well, in the sense that a man was rescued from a nearby river, and it seems to indicate that the man and the car and the woman were linked, and it's intriguing and horribly sad, but it seems to be. It seems to be the script of a play in its poignancy.
I know, yeah. She's 70 years of age. The analysis, the hard work of Green MEPs and activists means that SETA now includes safeguards for workers' rights and protections for the environment. We won't get stuck into that.
It's interesting to have that, because I know they also have a piece from Sinn Féin TD that I found was a bit over the top, but I'm glad to see the Examiner do a yin and yang on it in informing a wider debate. Yeah, so.
Okay.
I don't think Katie Hannon is doing the article, though. I think
no.
To be there.
No. She's saying that I think it's about her, just an interview with her getting into journalism. Yeah. I have 2 examiners up. God.
Twice the value.
I should have had the echo up twice. The body found in a burning car, and the Woodbury rapist. This is the stalker guy. So that's the evening echo tonight. It's like a weekender.
Value.
Boost for IT is taking upgrade gets. Tommy Gorman hangs up his mic. Dan, were you a fan of Tommy?
Yeah, well, I suppose he was an interesting character. He did have a kind of a presentation style that I suppose comedians could have abused in a particular way, and very much part of the popular folklore in terms of the peace process itself. So. He had his run-in terms of cancer and survived that well. It'll be interesting to know what he does next. He'll probably do a kind of a Sean O'Rourke and try to do guest appearances with RT. I'd imagine that RT has this strict policy for people they pay directly that they have to retire at 65.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're employed as agents, they don't have to be formally retired because they don't qualify for a pension as such. Yeah.
Unless you attend a golf outing and there
Indeed.
Any future engagements will be
life remains interesting apparently even after 65.
Yeah, it seems kind of bitter, the irony for Sean O'Rourke, I imagine, seeing Seamus Wolfe attending the Supreme Court today, or sitting. Yeah,
and Seamus Wolfe is someone who was an Attorney General who gave specific advice in relation to the current situation that mightn't hold water subsequently. So life is full of ironies.
Yeah, it's going to be a very ironic year, I think, this year. Great loves of amiable Aidan. He looks very amiable. I'm not too sure who he is. He's a
local legend anyway.
Local legend.
Actually, I find the story about 50 being fined for the 5 kilometre breaches for an area of Sligo, population of Sligo. That sounds quite significant, for that many fines for a county the size of Sligo with that type of population.
And on the spot fines as well. So
yeah,
that is interesting. Maybe it was one big party, was it?
Well, yeah, maybe they were at Ross's Point. Not Ross's Point, is it? Yeah, Ross's Point. I think it's Sligo.
So Okay, we're going into the British papers. The Daily Telegraph ministers to requisition 28,000 quarantine hotel rooms.
I thought that was an interesting subtitle, and the use of the word requisition. It sounds almost warlike.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's not very Tory-like, to be interfering with private enterprise like that. So obviously, they're concerned, and they want to be seen to be resolute in how they're governing. So they're putting out this idea that they're thinking of nationalising the hotels for government purposes.
Incredible. And yet, the Times, if I just go down to the London Times, return of sport and socialising outdoors.
That's kind of holding hope out for something that may not happen. The Six Nation Rugby is still going ahead, and there's kind of interesting things happening with European Champions League and Europa League games in the next couple of weeks, in the sense that the British teams might get an advantage in that, because of lockdown rules in some EU countries like Portugal and Germany. Both legs of the rounds they're playing in the Champions League and Europa League might get played in England for upcoming games.
Wow.
But it doesn't mean that it'll have any crowds at these. The Australian Open has allowed 30,000 people to watch the tennis tournament over the next few weeks, so it'll be interesting to see that kind of reaction.
Well, that is a great sign. Government plan, the UK government plans vaccine passports to allow holidays. The conspiracy theorists were right in this regard, I think.
Well, yeah, there's also a story, I'm not too sure if it's here or I've seen it elsewhere, that surveys are saying that up to a quarter in France, Germany, and the US may not take vaccines at all.
Yeah.
Which makes the idea of a vaccine passport, well, it gives it a different currency in the sense that if you're talking about trying to control international spread of a virus, and people have chosen not to take the vaccine route to control it themselves, do they have the right to travel to infect other people? That's I think where the debate might head in the next few months, especially when the vaccination program gets close towards vaccinating most adults.
Yeah. It'll be interesting now. Certain countries probably won't allow people in without a vaccine passport.
I'd say that's likely. Yeah, it's likely.
It's a brave new world altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Nifty, over 50 jabs. Just on the AstraZeneca vaccine and its issues with people over the age of 65, Dan. Have you been following that at all?
I have. I saw that the Stephen Donnelly signed the order for having it used in Ireland. It still seems that the European Medicines Agency has qualms over the scale of the research done in the age group concerned. And they can't vouch for its efficacy because there wasn't enough studying done. So our own vaccination program has been upended in a large way, in the sense that that the Pfizer and Moderna now are going to be used firstly for the over 70s nursing homes, and then as people who are vulnerable, and the AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, when it gets approved, will be going more towards health workers, frontline workers, and other parts of the population. So it means that we might need a longer time period for the over 70s and more vulnerable to be vaccinated. But a few people who had an expectation of not being vaccinated until May, maybe vaccinated in March, that if we get the supply issues right, which is still a big question mark and where we've been having a lot of the trouble.
Yeah. Okay, just in New York Times, in Europe, a vaccine rollout flop, they're calling it.
It's a
bit early to say that.
Yeah, well, it's not unfair, but I don't think the situation in Ireland is as bad as other countries. Certainly, they haven't done it well in Germany, and it's not going so well in France. but we're one of the better performing EU countries in terms of the number of vaccinations. We're still quite poor compared to Israel and UK, but then they started well in advance to us and they have more control over their supply. But the system we have in place and the practice of the vaccination, and we seem to be doing that as well as it's being done anywhere if we're given access to the vaccines. And hopefully as and when they come, we can get people done as quickly as they need to be done.
Mm-hmm. The Economist, the real revolution on Wall Street. This is
the bull market. Yeah, it's well, the bull market is the opposite of the bear market. So it's over 30,000 now, which is something that Trump used to pay a lot of attention to until the figures started going downwards. I'm a bit cold about stock markets in any case. I think they don't accord with reality or anything like that. But the Americans get very excited about them, and the Asian ones are certainly thought very, very important. But I think in 6 months' time we'll be seeing figures about or stories about the stock market not doing as well as everyone hoped, and people worrying about their pensions again.
Yeah, I think it's all about crypto, really. When I look into this with any, and I don't understand crypto either. So
no. Apparently, all it takes is an Elon Musk tweet, and everything goes crazy. So.
That's it. We have to get into it. I mean, we can't be these kind of, sad dads.
Well, we got to have some kind of pension plan anyway. That's for sure.
Exactly. So, Financial Times will be leading that. Directors face creditor liability for major failures under audit reform.
Well, that sounds like something that needs to be done, but whether it'll affect anyone is really up to question. UK, like ourselves, don't really do white collar crime, or at least don't prosecute it, which is one of the problems we have in our society.
Yeah, we're very lax in that. I mean, the sites they discovered that there was nobody qualified to deal with insider trading. If an insider trading crime was committed in Ireland, there was nobody qualified in the police to deal with it.
Well, yeah, from 10 years ago, we were in government last, and I was our finance spokesperson and the central bank and the whole bank situation. I mean, I was learning then about the kind of revolving door approach about people, public servants who probably entered into the public service in the central bank for the best of intentions, but within a very short time frame, getting jobs in the private sector precisely because they worked in the central bank, and those kind of incestuous relations that just led to the diluted standards we had.
I don't know what's happened with the site-serve thing. But I heard today that Marie McNally from the Social Democrats is joining the Greens.
Oh.
Yeah. She's becoming an advisor to the minister, I think.
Oh, that's possible. Well, if she's in government, it doesn't necessarily mean she's joining the party. But
no. But it's certainly a step away from something.
She's certainly very skilled. I'd certainly be interested to know what kind of role she's playing and how she might help.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, she was very much part of the birth of Sockdowns and Catherine.
Indeed. Well, then so was Stephen Donnelly. Yeah, so.
Okay. Moving swiftly on. He's having some week, isn't he? Good Lord.
Indeed.
Good Lordy. Claptrap, Vicar faces the sack. Dishonours to Tom tribute. Pathetic trolls couldn't even be kind for some Tom's War Memorial claps. Perhaps their mummies and daddies didn't show them enough affection. Bedwetters and lovies.
Oh gosh.
Who was doing that to him?
I'm not too sure, but I mean, maybe it's someone who was having a bad day. I'm sure there wasn't the kind of intention saying that this 100-year-old man is something we should dishonor in the most pathetic way possible. It's these things are usually blown out of all sense of proportion.
Yeah, well, I think about everybody Everybody likes Tom. I mean, how could you?
Yeah.
Guy's 100. Although broadsheet readers did have a pop at him today for going to Barbados, selfishly going to Barbados before, getting his vaccination or something.
But maybe he didn't realize, or maybe it was a revolutionary act, because Barbados are getting rid of the Queen as their head of state. So,
Yeah.
So maybe he wasn't being as loyal as you thought he might have been being.
I like your thinking, Dan. I'd love to chat all night. Dan, thanks a lot. What's your week like? Have you cancelled?
Saturday is probably the first day I've had without any kind of major Zoom meeting or going on with one of those interminable things that goes on for all afternoon. So I'm going to use the time to take all my recycling that I've built up since Christmas down to the recycling centre. It's going to take me at least 3 hours to do that anyway. So.
It's a green party kind of Christmas day almost. We'll have a great time. Please don't cycle anywhere.
No. Too wet. Too wet.
Yes. And hopefully see you next week, Dan, if you're right.
Yeah, from around certainly. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you then, John.
Thanks. Bye now.
Good luck. Bye.